new here, my name is Tyra, and I'll be talking about the affirmative action bill. I'm pretty sure I got my scholarships based in affirmative action. I had similar stats as to my white counterparts. So in high school, I had a 3.7 unweighted scaled GPA and a 4.4 scaled weighted GPA with a 28 ACT score. I was in National Honor Society, Spanish National Honor Society. I was one of the varsity tennis team captains, and I scored a 3 on my AP US History exam and a 4 on my AP Stats exam. These were the schools I got into: Syracuse University, University of Miami, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I was deferred in early action, then accepted in regular admission: North Carolina State and the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. These were the schools that I got rejected by. University of Chicago, the University of Southern California, Pomona College, and Elon University, which is located in North Carolina. I ended up picking Syracuse University. I chose Syracuse University because they offered me the most financial aid even out of my in-state colleges, along with a very generous scholarship of $10,000, which was included in my acceptance letter. Apart from my merit stats, I like to think that these were also the attributes that differentiated me between an average Syracuse University student, which happened to be primarily white and very much so rich. I was first generation Haitian American, so both of my parents were born in Haiti and immigrated to the United States. I was working class. Even though I lived in the suburbs of Charlotte at the time when I was applying, that doesn't necessarily mean the people in my neighborhood were making more than the average median income for the entire country. If anything, I'd like to say that in my neighborhood, a lot of people were hiding behind credit card debt and foreclosures. I attended a public high school, and it was pretty large. In fact, I had a graduating class of 414. In my high school, there were no classes offered to study for the ACT, just one weekend prep session that lasted 4 hours. And I just took the ACT because North Carolina offered every single student a free ACT test. I happened to score pretty well on it, and I just used that score moving forward in my college admissions. I wonder what would have happened if I had more money and resources to actually study for this test. So I mentioned all of that to say, to be a black student in any prestigious institution requires you to be exceptional. You're not even the talented 10th. You're like the talented 1%. But hey, somebody gave me a chance, and I'm now working alongside students to whose schools I was rejected from. So what is affirmative action and what it isn't?
After the assassination of Dr. King, there were riots in 60 American cities simultaneously. Affirmative action began as riot control. Harlem was up in flames. Bed-Stuy was up in flames. Newark was up in flames. And if we don't do something to bring in young black people to the mainstream economically and educationally, we're not sure the society will hold together. There were executive orders by President Kennedy and President Johnson which said employers had to make a good faith effort to use affirmative action in their hiring and recruitment policies, which meant they were going to try to recruit people who had once been discriminated against. You had colleges admitting large numbers of black students who previously only admitted a handful. It really changed the country. But it wasn't done because of a sudden burst of conscience. It was done out of fear that the society was falling apart. And when the fear passed, the sense of urgency about recruiting those large numbers of people started to dissipate as well.
For more than 50 years, colleges have taken different approaches towards admissions to make their campuses more diverse. Considering an applicant's race, generally called affirmative action, has long been standard at universities from UPenn to Harvard, but not anymore. The Supreme Court has ruled that no college in the U.S. can consider an applicant's race in admissions. Here's how affirmative action changed college admissions. Most colleges would essentially filter students. They'd set factors like a minimum GPA or a minimum test score, and voila, there's your pool of accepted students. Obviously, the more selective the school, the higher those standards were.
A big part of both test scores and grades are pre-18 educational investment and, honestly, non-educational investment. The degree to which you had a stable household, the degree to which you had some notion of being able to focus on your work. The better a high school you go to, the better the test score you get. The better sort of access to resources outside of high school, like tutoring or other services, that you had access to before 18, the better you test.
Students from higher income households score higher. Same if you look at who grew up in a household with a parent with a graduate degree versus no degree. That also reflects in race, with Black and Hispanic students scoring lower than white and Asian students. Berkeley's admissions really just looked at GPA and test scores. The student population was less than 5% Black and Hispanic.
Students who might have been really high ability just weren't able to get the kind of education that would lead them to the kind of high standardized tests that would get them into a school like Berkeley. These schools recognized that they needed some way of admitting those students, and so they started affirmative action policies to try to bring in students from sort of every part of, in this case, the state of California.
So that being said, I wanted to challenge what was the actual difference between affirmative action and legacy status for students? If you're holding a certain amount of slots for students based on their legacy status, why can't you do the same thing for disadvantaged students?
Legacy admissions will continue.
And they argue the court is allowing a practice that harms diversity to continue, legacy admissions. That's when a school gives a student a boost in the admissions process because their family members went to that same school. Studies have shown that at many elite schools like Harvard, legacy students are overwhelmingly white. So let's verify. Did the Supreme Court allow legacy university admissions to continue? Our sources are the majority ruling written by Chief Justice John Roberts and Ben Barton, a law professor at the University of Tennessee, who has also served on the school's admissions board. The answer is yes. The ruling allows legacy admissions to continue.
Some people believe that this country is post-racial. After the Supreme Court decisions that were made last week, I definitely don't think so. I think people are wishful thinking and not understanding the trials and tribulations that talented students, especially students of color, are still facing post the 2020 pandemic.
Hey, good morning to you, John. We're here at Afrotech. This conference is always focused on increasing Black representation in tech. Biggest turnout in the event history that you're seeing here behind me. But this year, there's a lot of concerns about the impact of tech layoffs. Amazon, the latest name to announce those layoffs, and that impact on Black workers that are already underrepresented in tech.
If all of these companies are saying the people who haven't been here that long, we're not that loyal to them, then that's where it'll impact Black professionals because we just got here, right? And so we don't necessarily have those champions that are sitting in the room that are saying, okay, they're making decisions, who's going to stay and who's going to go.
And now that we're going through a bit of a bear market, contraction, we're seeing actually they're seeing some outsized reductions in their funding, and I think that is a mistake on behalf of a lot of the VC community.
I've spoken to a lot of people here at the conference. They say they did bring their resumes, even if they do feel secure in their jobs.
I know so many of my talented peers who are still searching for stable jobs. I can't really see how corporate America is offering any type of safety cushions for these specific students. So how does affirmative action benefit our society? As I mentioned, somebody gave me a chance, and listen, I did not take that chance for granted. I feel like I made an impact on my college campus, and I believe I was genuinely a valuable student at Syracuse University, even if I'm not given as much credit for it. So what does this mean for Black students, students of color, moving forward? I can't really say for now. I was extremely shocked and a little bit emotional, but I like to block out anything negative that's trying to tell me something that I'm not. But given that Black Lives Matter took place during 2020, it's almost a slap in the face of the progress that certain individuals are putting their lives on the lines for. Now it's really up to the institutions. The country could tell you how to run your institution, but really think, how would your institution look without any ethnic diversity, geographical diversity, gender diversity, and more? Do you just want robots in the working place? Or do you want human beings that want to make this world a better place? And I don't believe you can judge that based off of solely an SAT score and a GPA. Have a good day. See you guys next week.